Easter week, 1916, Dublin, Ireland. While England was preoccupied with fighting World War I against the Central Powers, lines of green uniformed men prowled the streets of Dublin, armed with limited weapons with a group of less than 1,500 men. Easter was chosen as the day for this operation because the uprising of Ireland would parallel Christ's resurrection. The original plan was for the Irish Volunteers to have a great military parade on Easter Sunday of 1916. Only at the end, they would not disband. Instead, they would begin the war to take back Ireland. Their hope was that uprisings would begin all across Ireland, but this was called off in the night before, leaving the Irish in a state of both tension and enthusiasm. 12:04 p.m., Easter Monday, 1916, Dublin, Ireland. In violation of the No Special Action order, the Irish Citizen Army laid siege to the Dublin General Post Office, replacing the Union Jack flag with their flag, consisting of 3 vertical stripes, 1 green, 1 white, and 1 orange. For the first time in 700 years, the flag of free Ireland flew over Dublin. A crowd amassed at the front of the GPO as Patrick Pearse, one of the revolutionaries, stepped out of the post office, reading the proclamation of the birth of the Irish Republic. Irish men and Irish women, in the name of God and of the dead generations from which she receives her old tradition of nationhood, Ireland, through us, summons her children to her flag and strikes for her freedom. The proclamation was signed by the 7 members of the Provisional Government of the Irish Republic: Patrick Pearse, James Connolly, Eamon Kent, Sean McDermott, Joseph Plunkett, Thomas MacDonagh, and Tom Clark. Shortly after, the shooting commenced. The police and the British military rushed to the scene to respond to the insurrection 20,000 strong. The battle raged on for the majority of Easter week. Rifles snapped, machine guns thrummed, the British used their biggest guns. Hundreds of civilians were killed in the streets of Dublin. 38 of those killed were children, the youngest of which was an infant. Buildings were leveled. The GPO's interior was incinerated. By the end of the week, the tide shifted toward the British. In the Irish Republic, women and men were equal. Margaret Skinner was a math teacher whose Irish parents raised her in Scotland. During the Easter Rising, she wore an Irish Volunteer's uniform. She was a sniper, carried ammunition, and was a dispatch rider. She was shot and seriously wounded by the British. Her book, Doing My Part for Ireland, about the Easter Rising, and her part in it, was published in 1917. She wrote about the leaders of the Rising and their fight for independence. Win it they will, although they may win it in death. In Pearse's last proclamation, the forces of the Irish Republic, which was proclaimed in Dublin on Easter Monday, the 24th of April, have been in possession of the central post of the capital since 12 noon on that day. If we have accomplished no more than we have accomplished, I am satisfied. He regretted that simultaneous uprisings had not materialized, but he was not afraid to face the judgment of God and posterity. On Easter Friday, April 28, 1916, Patrick Pearse issued an order of unconditional surrender. The Easter Rising had ended. People were taken by surprise by the Rising, and there was no time for the majority of people to get involved. In the few days that there was an Irish Republic in 1916, they had a provisional government issuing proclamations and postage stamps. History calls a successful revolt a revolution. A failed revolt is an insurrection. The atrocities committed by the British during the Easter Rising were compared to those committed by the Germans in World War I in Belgium. The British shot at Red Cross nurses in uniform with a machine gun. British soldiers looted businesses and homes. During the Easter Rising, the Germans in the trenches opposite the Irish Brigade put up a sign: "The military are shooting down your wives and children in Dublin." The British killed and punished people who were not involved in the Easter Rising. But the Easter Rising was not meant to succeed. Sean Moylan served as a commandant of the Irish Republican Army and was a Fianna Fáil politician. He was appointed captain of the Newmarket Division after the Easter Rising, and during the Irish Civil War, he fought on the Republican side. Sean Moylan explained decades after the Rising,
Ireland was the victim of English conquest, but the finality of that conquest was never recognised by the Irish people. The insurrection of Easter week was a protest, made not so much in the hope of an immediate adoption of the ideas on which it was based, as on the belief that the sacrificial promulgation of those ideas would eventually bear fruit, would induce acceptance of the principles of the insurrectionists.
Father Aloysius was a Capuchin monk in Dublin. He was at lunch when the Easter Rising began. In 1916, he was the chaplain to the Irish volunteer leaders. He heard the confessions of the leaders before they were executed, and he was present at the execution of James Connolly.
To me, it all seems so recent. Indeed, but one short chapter of the story of the struggle for freedom and progress and Irish culture.
Kathleen Clark was married to Tom Clark. She reported upon visiting them before their executions that Tom and her brother were full of enthusiasm at what they'd done. The work which Clark had started in 1907 was now complete. Clark would die happy, knowing that he had struck the first successful blow for freedom. Although the Easter Rising of 1916 did not result in complete and immediate Irish independence, it broke the barriers of British oppression. An Irish Republic had existed, even if only for a few days. That showed the Irish people that the British could be defeated by a smaller, more dedicated force. The atrocities that the British perpetrated to crush the Irish Easter Rising of 1916 only fueled greater rebellion out of sheer fury. The Irish would fight again in 1922, in better coordinated uprisings across Ireland, this time winning their fight for independence of 26 of the 32 counties of Ireland.